History was made at the end of last year when Karen Bass was sworn in as the mayor of Los Angeles. It marked the first time the nation's four largest cities, LA, New York, Chicago, and Houston, all had black mayors. But the gains in representation are coming at a time when politics at the state and federal level are making it harder for mayors of color to succeed. Joining me now is Shawynn Patterson-Howard. She is the president of the African American Mayors Association, and she's also the mayor of Mount Vernon, New York. Welcome to the Griot, Mayor. Your association believes that there's a kind of targeted attack from the GOP to undermine black mayors, not just in your area, but really around the country. Why do you think that?
Absolutely. I mean, when we're looking at it, we're talking about preemption. And so, as you just stated, the four largest cities in the country are being led by black mayors. And now all of a sudden, the Republicans who have traditionally talked against big government and making sure that there was state control or home rule or local control are now very interested in controlling, especially communities led by Democratic mayors with a focus on black mayors.
Let's talk about three states in particular. In Mississippi, the state legislature is proposing bills that impact the city of Jackson. One would expand the authority of Capitol Police, and the other would pay for new judge positions within the Hinds County court system. How do these types of proposed bills, affect a mayor's power?
So one of the biggest responsibilities of a mayor is public safety. And so when you take local control away from a mayor of its police department, its city court, then you're taking away local control. The community elected that mayor to be able to dispense justice and services with equity. And when a governor, especially a Republican governor, is looking to take over a police department as well as a city court, then you're talking about how are we dealing with quality of life issues? How are we dealing with local crimes? And so that is really the responsibility of a local mayor. And for the governor to take those agencies over, it really takes away a lot of the control of that local mayor and the responsibility that that local mayor has to protect its community and make sure that its citizens are treated in a way that is just and are treated with equity.
In Missouri, Senate Democrats blocked bills that would have transferred control of the St. Louis police departments from Mayor Tishaura Jones to a board of police commissioners. It seems police power is a major target of these bills. You've talked about public safety a little bit, but this idea of who controls the police seems to be another major issue, particularly at a moment where there's been so much talk about police reform, police accountability, defunding, abolition, across the board. So how do we think about these shifts with regard to law enforcement?
So when you look at it here locally in Mount Vernon, we do a lot of work, especially around gun trafficking. We know that guns are not coming out of New York, they're coming out of Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia. And so locally, we do a lot of work with the ATF, alcohol and tobacco and firearms. And when you're taking control away from a mayor and giving it to a board of governors, and those governors also at the head of the state are saying that they will not allow local police departments to work with federal agencies like the FBI and the ATF, then that becomes a problem because we know that gun crimes in our communities are very serious. We're seeing black and brown blood roll on the streets and pour down the streets, and we have to get control around guns in our communities. And while these Republican governors are really focused on making sure that guns are more accessible, but yet saying they want safer communities, this absolutely undermines every attempt that we have to have common gun sense laws in our communities. We work very close with, AMA works very close with every town, focusing on those gun sense laws and making sure that gun industries are held accountable. And as we do more of that work, we're seeing that governors in red states are pushing back and trying to take away local power from police departments, and especially the mayors that are overseeing those police departments.
Mayor, you know the right-wing narrative, though, is that all the violence, all the wanton reckless behavior that's going on in these streets, it comes not from Republican gun laws, but from Democrat mayors in cities like Baltimore and Chicago, and now black mayors in cities like Baltimore and Chicago, and soon Philadelphia again. What do you say to that?
I think that's absolutely a lie. We're working on police reform. We're working to do programs with credible messengers. We're finding alternatives to incarceration. We're focusing on the drivers of violence in our community. And we can't just focus on the drivers of violence in our community. We also have to make sure that guns are not so easily accessible. We also have to make sure that we are working with our courts to provide proper justice, but not over policing and not over criminalizing some of the behaviors that happen in our communities. And that's why we have to have control of our police departments as well as our courts. Look, again, as I stated, Republican governors and Republicans in general have always talked about the overreach of the federal government. But now you have governors trying to take control of local government. It's really hypocritical. They talk out of one side of their mouth when it comes to the federal government, but now as governors, they want to control our local cities. We've even seen governors deny funding from the federal government to do programs around reform and job training and education. But then at the same time, when there's a disaster, they're the first ones on the pantry line saying that the government, the federal government, has a responsibility to take care of them locally. You can't say out of one side of your mouth that you want local control of your states, and out of the other side of your mouth say that as a governor, you should have local control of cities that are within your state.
Mayor, the work you're doing right now with the African American Mayors Association is so important. It's important because, one, like all black folk who are in these types of positions, you need a network of people so that you realize you're not on your own. But also to advance legislation or to resist negative legislation around the country, you all have to have a kind of commitment to staying together, recognizing a common problem and a common pattern. And it seems that you all are doing that. Is there anything that people out there can do to support black mayors in terms of supporting the African American Mayors Association?
Absolutely. We need people to pay attention to the legislation that is happening in their local communities and trying to come down from the state. We need to make sure that governors are staying in their lane, understanding that mayors have the pulse of their community. They were elected by the community, and that this overreach into local government is really, it's just racism. It's cloaked in a different color. We know that urban communities are going to be the most populous in the country, and this is one of the ways that they are trying to take back control by controlling local communities, especially communities led by black mayors. Either stay in your lane and be helpful and allow us to get resources, or get out of the way and allow us to do the work that we were elected to do for our communities.
That's it. Either help us or get out the way. That's what I'm talking about. Mayor Shawynn Patterson-Howard, we thank you for your work. She's the president of the African American Mayors Association, the mayor of Mount Vernon, New York. We thank her for joining us.